Good evening, my dark minions. Welcome to Lady of Darkness Horror Podcast. I must say that it's been quite a while since the last I've uploaded a video. Perhaps it's been very hectic and busy on my end and in my dark universe. Today's tale, we will dive deeper into family dynamics and how unhealthy they can be. So let's dive in, shall we? I first met Ariel about 4 months ago. It was my brother Mitch's 25th birthday, and he came to the party that Mom and I had planned for him. He had told us beforehand that he would be bringing his new girlfriend, but neither of us could have expected how perfect she would be. She had long, flowing black hair to her waist, green eyes, and an infectious smile. She said all the right things, had an adorable laugh, and was very polite to my mother and myself. I could see Mitch watching our reactions, and he seemed delighted that we were getting along with Ariel. The only one who didn't seem to like Ariel was my Maltese, Sam. He barked the entire time she was in the house and would not come near her, even when she offered him food from her plate. Mom made me lock him in my room, but he continued barking himself hoarse until she finally left the house. This was the strangest thing to me. Sam is one of the friendliest dogs you'll ever meet. Still, I brushed it off and just assumed that maybe Sam was having a bad day. Or maybe Ariel had a pet cat that he could smell or something. The next time we saw her, we were all out for a family dinner at Red Lobster. It had been about 2 weeks since Mitch's birthday, and to our surprise, Mitch had dyed his natural blonde hair jet black. He also wore a torn denim jacket, and his nose was pierced. I could just sense my mom's disapproval emanating from her, but she held her tongue and even complimented Mitch during dinner. Ariel was as charming as she was before and took small bites of her fish as she quietly watched all of us interact. When we got home, my mother finally unloaded. "Your brother has been seeing that girl for less than 3 weeks, Dante, and she's already got him changing his looks. Mitch has never dyed his hair before in his life. And that damn nose piercing? I knew that little slut was no good when I first met her. She is just too perfect." "Well, Mitch seems happy," I offered weakly, to which my mom just clicked her tongue. Little did she know, she had just seen her oldest son for the last time. It still hurts me to type this, but Mom got in an accident. A terrible, terrible accident. It happened a mere few days after we had the dinner. When they showed Mitch, Ariel, and me the body, I broke down into tears. Mom had somehow been severed at the waist. It had been a 3-car collision on the freeway. The other 2 drivers were alive and relatively unharmed. I found myself orphaned at 16. Mitch took the necessary steps and soon became my legal guardian. When he pulled up outside the 2-story gray and black house on the edge of the town, I looked around in protest. "What happened to your apartment?" I asked in confusion. "Oh, I moved in with Ariel a long time ago. There's plenty of space here, man, and Sam will love the backyard." Sam did not love the backyard. In fact, he didn't love anything about the house. He barked incessantly until Ariel approached me as I sat eating breakfast at the dinner table. "Shut him up, or I will," she snarled, her green eyes suddenly more vicious than Sam could ever be. I took Sam into my new room and calmed him down as best as I could. Even when he was quiet, he stared apprehensively at the door, as though afraid Ariel would swoop in and scoop him up. Sam was not the only one who didn't like the house. It was spooky as hell. Cobwebs covered most of the furniture and old paintings from the 1800s. There were creaks and bumps, and sometimes the lights seemed to go out on their own. There were a lot of old rooms that I were forbidding to enter, and Ariel always seemed to know what I was planning to do before I even said anything. "Have fun with your friends," she said with a smile, as she and Mitch snuggled together on the leather couch. I hadn't even told them I was going out yet. Another time, I had just gotten a nude pic from a girl at school, and on my way up the stairs, I ran into Ariel. "Have fun in there," she whispered, a devilish look in her eyes. I was too uncomfortable to do anything as I laid in bed, staring wistfully at the picture. Ariel was also too comfortable with me around, even if it was her house. She would strut around in just her bathrobe most of the time, and whenever my brother would catch me looking at her, he would just grin and give me a thumbs up. She would barge into the bathroom to put on makeup or brush her hair, even when she knew I was in the shower. She never used the bathroom. As a matter of fact, I haven't even seen her eat anything either, not since that night at Red Lobster. At night, I could hear them. Not Ariel and my brother, but Ariel and her friends. She had a group of 5 that would visit her late at night, and they would retreat to the room that was just down the hall from our own. They would chant, sing things in a language I did not know, and outside the weather would turn from a nice, normal night to a complete thunderstorm. Sam would hide under the bed until the chanting stopped, and it took a lot of effort for me to get him out of the room the mornings after. One time I ran into one of the girls. I felt safe enough to leave my room, given that the rain had stopped and the sun had come out. But no sooner did I step out did I run into one of the girls. She had a similar style to Ariel's. She wore a black dress, had long black hair with green highlights, and had an abundance of piercings. "Hi," she said, flashing a smile much like Ariel's. "Hi, just on my way to school," I said, trying to squeeze past her. She didn't move. "I just wanted to say sorry about your mother. She may have been a bitch, but I'm sure she's in a better place now." I have never been so tempted to hit a woman in my life. I settled for ramming my way past her instead. On my way down the stairs, she called my name and I looked back. "We're having an orgy on Halloween. You can come. I know you're just dying to lose your virginity," she said with a wink. I ran out of the house. I've put up with so much the past few months, I'm surprised I haven't lost my sanity. But the other day, home alone, I did something I shouldn't have. I wanted to find out who exactly Ariel was, where she came from. Like an idiot, I used an old hairpin to pick a lock on one of the downstairs rooms I had been forbidden from. The must hit me like a literal slap in the face. It felt like the room hadn't been accessed in years, but I know that it had. There were old dolls scattered here and there, ancient newspaper clippings, old brushes, and there was a single painting hanging above a fireplace. I was shocked to find the face of a woman who was identical to Ariel staring back at me. I looked at the artist's name and the year it had been painted, 1806. I would have ran from the room, closed the door behind me and tried to forget the whole thing. But I found something on the floor, lying next to an old, yellowed bone with a piece of torn picture. I picked it up, seeing a pair of a woman's legs, wearing blue jeans. I glanced around and found the other half of the picture. My mother's face smiled back at me. The picture had been torn at her waist. I fucked up. That may very well be the understatement of the year. There's an old saying about curiosity and cats that I don't care enough to type out, but that phrase has never been so relevant. Before I dive into this, to all the people who want to know about the orgy, sorry, that was back in October. I wasn't at home for Halloween for obvious reasons, so I have no clue what happened. My brother seemed like he had attained nirvana for 2 weeks after, though. You can imagine how jittery I was after discovering the damning evidence about the truth of my mother's accident. I left everything just as I had left it, locked the door to the forbidden room behind me, and snuck back to my bedroom. Ariel cooked shrimp pasta for dinner that day, and seemed to notice how skittish I was as Mitch and I sat eating at the table. "Everything okay, Dante?" she asked, her piercing green eyes concentrated on my face. I made a point not to look at her and to focus my mind completely on my food. "Yeah, it's great, Ariel," I said as my brother grinned stupidly next to me. I tossed some pasta down onto the floor for Sam to eat. He glanced nervously in Ariel's direction before advancing slowly, gratefully accepting my donation. Ariel seemed to give up trying to read me and instead turned her attention to Mitch. "I'm having the girls over for New Year's Eve." "Really?" Mitch said, his ears perking up. "Is Freya going to bring the honey again?" No honey this time. We will be having a bonfire in the backyard. You and Dante are free to come join us." She glanced at me again and I nodded. "Yeah, I'll see if I can make it." I had no intentions of making it. I spent the majority of the next 2 days in my room. Yesterday, I tried to sneak down to the kitchen to grab some leftovers from the fridge. Ariel, however, was sitting at the table in her silk nightgown, her laptop open in front of her. "Good morning," she said, not looking away from the screen. "Good morning," I replied swiftly. I had no intentions of staying in the kitchen with her. I had no intentions of staying anywhere close to the creature that I believed murdered my mother. But before I could hustle out of the kitchen, she spoke in a tone that indicated I was not yet allowed to leave. "Have you ever been on Reddit?" she asked, and my heart skipped a beat. No way. No fucking way. Yeah, I've heard of it." "You sure that's all?" she asked, and now she looked at me. Try as I couldn't get the image of my mother's picture or of Ariel's portrait out of my mind. Instead, I looked down at my feet. "Yes, Dante, I did it. I killed your mother. Do you know why?" My fists were clenched now. I looked defiantly into that pretty face of hers. "Because you felt threatened," Ariel laughed. I felt a chill run through me. "No, Dante. Why would I feel threatened? She can't harm me, and neither can you, so don't get any ideas. And that proposal I made to you the other day about New Year's, you will be there. Tonight. We will have drinks, and then you will meet us in the backyard. If you try to leave, I will know." She stood up, her nightgown slipping a little. I looked away, blushing, and she strode past me, brushing against me slightly. I stood there for a long time after that, seething with anger. Not only was this bitch responsible for my mother's death, but she was taunting me about it. She felt no shame for taking a kind soul out of this world by way of some bizarre, unnatural magic. I knew that I had to put an end to this. All of the bitches arrived at 9 on the dot. Freya with her big doe eyes, Hallie, the blonde, Jupiter, the one who had confronted me outside my bedroom, Eve, ironic I know, the girl with the curly hair and mocha skin, and Mallory, the shortest and palest of the bunch. I watched from the top of the stairwell as they entered, all of them wearing black dresses as usual. Jupiter spotted me and stuck her tongue out, showing me a new piercing. She waved tauntingly, and I turned and retreated to my room. They wouldn't be smiling after tonight. They drank for hours. When it was 11:45, they decided to head outside. There was a banging on my door, and Sam and I both jumped, looking over at it. "Meet us downstairs," Ariel commanded, and Sam and I looked at each other. "Don't be scared, boy. This is almost over." They were all dancing around the fire by the time I made it outside. Mitch, who clearly couldn't handle the alcohol like they could, was slumped over in the grass, a bottle of whiskey in his hands, nodding his head and singing some old Slayer song. There were bottles of wine lying all about in the grass. Ariel was leading the dance, her dress swirling in the cool wind. I stood back, my arms crossed, watching them as Sam cowered over by the back door. "Dante, come closer," cooed Jupiter, her eyes seemingly purple in the moonlight. "I know you're cold. We can all keep each other warm." I can't explain why, but something felt completely off. I had to behave though, or else face Ariel's wrath. I approached them and Jupiter took my hands in hers, spinning me around. "I haven't drank this much since 1786, murmured Eve, who stifled a burp with her hand. Freya and Hallie were now on their knees, drawing symbols in the dirt. Ariel, however, was reaching into a suspicious-looking red bag. She pulled out a knife, then turned, her green eyes boring right into my own. I fell. Immobilized, I could only watch as they all stood over me. Despite their beauty, they were hideous. I felt like a lamb lying before 6 lions. "You really thought you were going to kill me with this?" Ariel asked disappointedly, pulling the hammer out of my pocket. "How did you ever expect to get close enough? Don't you know that I cannot die?" "We cannot die," Mallory corrected, booping my nose with her finger. "We are eternal. We have bathed in the blood of virgins for centuries," cooed Hallie. "And now we will send you to meet Mommy." Ariel's voice was colder than the wind. I closed my eyes. There was a sound of glass breaking, and I heard a scream. Opening my eyes again, I could see my brother standing way close to the bonfire. He had somehow smashed a bottle of whiskey he had been cradling, and his entire arm had gone up in flame. He whirled around in terror and accidentally smacked Freya, whose wine splashed all over herself and 2 of the others. Mitch's flame spread to Freya and then to Hallie, and at this point, I realized that I was able to move again. I hopped up, snatched the hammer from Ariel, and slammed it into the side of her face. She fell while Freya and Hallie ran around wildly, both covered in flames. I turned to Jupiter and struck her in the temple. Stunned, she stumbled into Mitch, and both of them toppled into the bonfire. Eve leaped at me until I ducked, and she came down hard on her face. I grabbed the knife off of the ground and rammed it deep into that spot where her black heart was. She hissed like a dying fire, blood spurting from her chest. Mallory wrapped her arms around my neck, but I brought the hammer up, hitting her in the face and freeing myself. I doused her in wine and pushed her into the flames that were spreading in the dry grass all around us. Freya lay smolderingly by the fence. I wanted to set flame to Ariel myself, but there was so much fire around me that I knew I had to get out of there. I dashed back into the house, grabbed my brother's car keys, and ran out. I was not surprised to find Sam already waiting for me. I tossed him into the passenger seat, backed out, and burned out of the driveway. I'm writing this now from a public library. I'm sure the authorities will be looking for me soon. But it's not them that I'm worried about. When I fell asleep, parked on the side of the road at 3 a.m, I could see a terribly burned, withered woman with green eyes staring hatefully at me. I could still smell the smoke when I jerked awake. Thank you so much for joining me with tonight's tale, my Dark Minions. If you would like to follow me for more horror, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button as well as that bell icon. That way you're never missed anytime I've uploaded a new video. And before I go, my Dark Minions, I must admit I have some amazing Christmas tales coming up. Until next time, sweet dreams.